All Hollywood exaggerations aside, though, there's a growing body of evidence that suggests that psychedelic drugs can actually reduce stress and anxiety. So if you think LSD and other psychedelic drugs are dangerous and have no place in our society, then everything you know is wrong. Joining me now to talk about his own experience with psychedelics is Ben Cohen, editor of the Daily Banter. Ben, welcome.
Thanks, Tom.
And who recently came out with a piece titled "How Ayahuasca Destroyed My Ego and Brought Me Back Home." And once again, Ben, welcome back. Sorry about that. As you talk about in your article, you were initially skeptical about psychedelics. What changed your mind?
Yeah, it was actually two things. The first was reading about near-death experiences and the kind of potentially what were the chemicals that caused, you know, a near-death experience. And there was a mention of DMT, which is dimethyltryptamine. Then just randomly, I heard a podcast about dimethyltryptamine, that you could use it as a psychedelic. I never really paid any attention to psychedelics, and it kind of got me thinking about, you know, are these altered states of consciousness actually real? You know, is there life after death? Is consciousness, you know, something that we pick up, or is it something that we generate, our brains generate? Yeah, and I was kind of more on the kind of atheistic side of things, atheist materialist, I would kind of classify myself as, but it intrigued me. It really, really intrigued me, and I couldn't kind of get it out of my head. So I spent, you know, I would say close to 18 months researching psychedelics, and came to the conclusion before using them, yeah. I never used anything. I didn't smoke weed. I didn't do anything. No acid as a teenager. I didn't smoke cigarettes ever, and it kind of just kept gnawing away at me. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to have to find out for myself. And the more I researched it, the more I found that there wasn't much research on it. You know, in Western kind of academic science, there isn't much kind of data on it. And that was kind of intriguing, because some of the things that users were talking about, and kind of, if you look at anthropologists, they talk about the use of these psychoactive plants in kind of tribal societies as a kind of a sacrament, as a part of their, you know, almost day-to-day, you know, weekly, monthly rituals. So it got me thinking that, you know, maybe we've been lied to, or you know, it's a secret that's what it kind of came to me as. It was, you know, there was this kind of nasty secret, this dirty secret.
So tell us about your experience with it.
So yeah, I mean, I actually first did psilocybin, did mushrooms, and that was an enlightening experience, and very shocking to me, very, very shocking. It was very spiritual, and I'd had no spiritual experiences before ever in my life. Didn't think that they could happen. Thought they were all kind of you know, people just hallucinating. But when you actually have one, and it actually does, you actually do get this feeling that there is, you know, that all life is connected, that there is a natural intelligence in nature, that we are just a part of that intelligence as opposed to being apart from it, or somehow separate from it. And that was very, very paradigm shattering. And then I had read much about ayahuasca.
Which is some of the pictures we're showing right now.
Yeah, this is my trip to Peru back in April. And I went to Peru and took part in 4 ayahuasca ceremonies. And I have to say, it was reality obliterating, very profound, extremely difficult, but extremely rewarding as well, as it kind of rearranged how I perceived reality, how I perceived who I was and what I'm doing here, and what are human beings, and how do we interact with our natural environment. And that was, yeah, I mean, extremely life-changing experience. You know, there was just actually, I just read a report today out of the University of Sao Paulo, this new report that says that ayahuasca, a single session of ayahuasca can essentially cure depression. And this has been well known, you know, in shamanic societies, and it's been well known in kind of counterculture circles as well.
Well, this is the research that Tim Leary and Richard Alpert were doing in the late 50s, early 60s.
Yeah, and it was shut down. I think maybe Timothy Leary wasn't so helpful in the end.
Yeah.
He was kind of maybe too much at too early a stage. When you had a very kind of conservative culture.
A bit too much of an evangelist.
A bit too much of an evangelist too. I'm not an evangelist. I'm not suggesting anybody goes and starts taking these randomly or going to parties and taking psychedelics. I think setting is incredibly important. There's a whole, our culture it's kind of the antithesis of our culture. What psychedelics kind of teach you is that basically a lot of the stuff that we're doing in our society, materialism, exponential growth, pillaging of the environment, is essentially we're kind of destroying ourselves. And we take that we don't question that for the most part. And when you experience a psychedelic, you realize that you're kind of sensitized to nature. You're sensitized to what you have been doing or what we are doing as a society. So it can be quite kind of traumatic almost.
Would it be accurate to say that before your experience with psychedelics, your sense of the sacred was minimal, and since then you see the sacred everywhere?
Yeah, I would say
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that's such a common experience.
Yeah, that's pretty much nail on the head. I had some kind of Buddhist leanings. Maybe I liked that kind of stuff. I didn't really necessarily think too deeply about it. I had no time for mainstream religions. I wouldn't classify myself as New Agey at all. But now, it's a direct experience. You're coming into contact with, a different realm of reality, a different realm of consciousness, and it's undeniable and it's accessible to anybody. You can be anybody and go and have the same experience I did. And knowing about that now, it seems self-evident that nature is alive and aware and intelligent.
And we're an expression of it.
We're an expression of it, yeah. And that's can be quite difficult for people to kind of come to terms with.
Yeah, we have to wrap it up. Ben, welcome to the club of those of us who have seen the other side. Thanks so much,
yeah,
Ben Cohen. And now everything you know about psychedelic drugs is right.